Okay, hi chat. How are we doing? This is not Elden Ring, but it's Lords of the Fallen because I've been playing it in my spare time because I really wanted it. I've beat the first boss, which actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna go fight him again.
Hello and welcome to a little bit of a different type of video. Today I am playing Lords of the Fallen, but it's going to be more of a video commentary and it's going to be a little bit different because it is scripted, but I'm going to be talking about certain things and referencing lore and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different than normal, but I'm hoping you guys will still enjoy it. If you do, make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment of how I can improve on these types of videos, if you like it at all, or if I should just stick to funny moments. Thanks, and I'll see y'all at the end of the video. The first main boss you encounter in the game is named Pieta, she of Blessed Renewal. I don't have the original footage of me fighting her, but here's me re-fighting her, because that's a cool little feature you can do in the game. And she is actually one of my very favorite bosses in all of the Souls-like genre of all the games I've played. The fight is very eloquent and beautiful. Her attacks are very much based around holy, which adds to kind of that eloquent. It's very precise, bright, and flourished. And that also leads into one of the magics of the world, but we will talk about that later. Once you finish the fight with Pieta here, you will see her resurrect from a pool of blood. Then she tosses herself off a bridge, the one you just fought on. From there, you then get access to the main hub of the game, where all the important NPCs hang around, and again, you get to see Pieta, who has been resurrected and is no longer a sinner. You actually use her to upgrade your healing in the game. The lore behind that is the Sanguinarix, or your healing flask, essentially. It's this cross that you stab into yourself, is infused with Pieta's healing blood, which is also how she came about to be resurrected at the end of the boss fight. And as it becomes more infused with her healing blood, the more potent its abilities, the more you heal, all of that. Now, I'd like to go back and touch on the magics, just to get it out of the way. The three magics of the world also align with one of the three main gods and subsequent endings: Aureus and Radiance, Adir and Infernal, Putrid Mother, and the Umbral. I like to think of them as Faith, Fire, and Wither. If you've ever played any Souls-like or any other game with magic, you'll know exactly what those do. If you haven't, or if you don't remember, here's a quick crash course. Faith is essentially just a big beam of smite. If there's evil or undead, use that against them. It'll work like a charm. Flame is exactly what it sounds like. Imagine fireballs and other flaming spherical objects that you can just hurl at your opponents. And Wither is a bit different. It deals damage, but actually really doesn't deal damage. When you or an enemy is afflicted with Wither, a portion of your health turns white. If you get hit by any other type of attack after that spell hits you, you will lose that health. But if you manage to land some attacks before getting hit again, you have the opportunity to then regain all the health that was turned white from the Umbral spell. While we're on the topic of the Umbral, it is also a physical realm you get to play through in the game. The Umbral is basically the Upside Down from Stranger Things, or like the Twilight Zone, and it's a very integral part of the game. You need to swap back and forth periodically between your realm and the Umbral to progress through certain areas. The only problem is you can enter the Umbral using your lamp, but you can't exit the same way you came in. That's why in certain parts of the Umbral, you will find places usually surrounded by beds of white flowers where you can exit it and return to the relative safety of your realm. The catch is that you're always being watched in the Umbral, so if you're afraid of that, the Umbral is not the place for you. On your screen, there is an eye in the top right corner that shows the level of attention you are receiving from the beasts in the umbral. The longer you stay, the more attention you get, and the deadlier and more frequent enemies will become. The worst of those enemies, and my least favorite, is a Grim Reaper wannabe ninja dude thing. I don't know. Dude runs your fade if you even see him. He is literally counted as a mini boss in the game's wiki. So there's that for you. The next box from there that you encounter is gross, to say the absolute least. He or it or whatever this thing is named the Congregator of Flesh. A real appetizing name, I know. There's almost nothing about this dude on the internet, or at least the first page of Google. I didn't really look that hard. And as far as I could gather, and from what I did find on the internet, he is an amalgamation of humans once possessed by Aureus, the same Aureus who is the holy god or good god, in air quotes, who were led to some religious fanatic down in this pit that you fight him in, who then consumed them and became the Congregator of Flesh. I think Past Me put it pretty well, so I'll let him say it.
You. Gross.
I totally agree, Past Me. All in all, he's gross, and if I had to see him, you have to as well. Sorry, not sorry. From there, we enter Florida! Or at least the place I affectionately refer to as such. Its real name is the Forsaken Fen, but let's all be real, it's a pretty accurate depiction of Florida. The fen, or a wetland/swamp, is littered by headless humans who, I presume, drowned or died in the swamp. It's kind of like that one swamp from Lord of the Rings that Gollum leads Frodo through. Like, you know what I mean. I'll put a picture up of it. Those guys really aren't scary or a hindrance to you. You can kind of slice through them like butter. The real danger of the swamp, and the reason I hate the swamp, begins when you encounter the tribesmen that have settled in this swamp. They taught me what it would feel like if I were to drop the soap in prison. They will jump you. It's not an if, it's a when. You pick a fight with one, and 3 more will appear from the trees that I didn't even think were part of the game. They were just skybox or, for decoration, but they hid in there, and they appear out of nowhere and rail you. Then there's the Plague Doctor things. They look like if Yoda was a 15th century Plague Doctor. When I face off against them, well, I usually just don't face off against them. I hate them more than I hate the tribesmen. I prefer to tactically relocate to a more strategic area, and I definitely don't run for the hills if I see one. These dudes are rough to deal with. They hide atop buildings, or they walk through the swamp on these giant stilts, both of those options being well out of your normal reach, and they throw poison bombs at you. Doesn't that just sound fun? If that isn't unfair, I don't know what is, and if that doesn't make this a Souls-like, I don't know what would. Once you finally reach the end of the swamp, you're met again with an important boss, the Hushed Saint. He's called that because he literally can't speak. Bro is missing his head. After you meet him, he proceeds to go full headless horseman on you and has some of the most BS attacks I've ever dealt with. Look at this. Look at it again. I really was only somewhat bothered by it.
No, what? Excuse me? That's insane. That's insane.
I'm still salty about it to this day.
Dang. Well. Oh my gosh. Oh, let's go. Heresy purged.
After you deal with the quiet holy boy, you get to go look at a bright red beam of light. These beacons are what is keeping Adir, or basically the devil, trapped, and they're red, so that means he's gonna escape unless we turn them holy again. To turn them holy again, we just kind of stare at them, and butterflies fly out of our lamp, and it reaffirms the spells or whatever is binding Adir to the underworld so he can't meddle with our world. After making the beacon holy again, I then proceeded to get completely confused and lost as to where I was supposed to go, so I ran around for almost an hour looking for a key I didn't actually need to a place I didn't need to go yet, before I finally caved and Googled where I was supposed to be and got back on track.
Give item. What item you give? Oh, literally the item I was looking for. Something sounds like it's going to blow up over there. What the frick are you? There are two of them.
After that complete waste of time and getting back on track, I proceeded to the next area called Fitzroy's Gorge. I hate this place more than I hate the swamp. And that's saying something. As you enter the gorge, you're met with a fork in the road. One path leads to a mini-boss and the other to a gauntlet of death and despair. I chose the boss path first, which at the time I thought was horrible luck and horrible fate. I died to this guy 5 whole times. A true tragedy, I know. But I managed to persevere. You should all like the video because I'm just so good. The boss's name is Crimson Rector Percival, but he's just basically Pieta 2.0, but not as cool nor as difficult as she is. But to give him some credit, he does have an attack that is timed completely differently from all of his other attacks, and that is the only attack that kept killing me. It took me so long to get it through my thick skull that I needed to delay my dodge. It was horrible. Finally through with the boss fight, I took a stab at the Gauntlet of Death and Despair. If you have ever played a Souls-like, or a Soulsborne, or anything where there are annoying enemies, you have probably done this at some point. There's always that one area where you just decide to run past all the enemies and pray that they don't hit you on your way. That is what Fitzroy's Gorge is to me. I think I maybe tried to fight my way through once, maybe twice, before I just said, F it, we ball, and proceeded to never look at the enemies or interact with them again. Proceeding to the next portion of the gauntlet, it only got worse. I was forcefully introduced to Flying Bat Golem. They are the bane of my existence. These little guys can burn whatever hell exists in this world. They creep me out and have killed me one too many times for me to be calm about them. That said, while I was researching for this script, I found out that, quote, shrouded sparrows are manifestations of what remained of the children that died in the deep mines in the bowels of mountains, end quote. So there's that, I guess. Now I feel bad, dang it. I'm gonna take a walk now. Anyway, something that doesn't make me feel bad is these next guys. They're called Ravenous Fascinators, but I will be referring to them as anglerfish. They literally are just that. They pretend to be a piece of loot on the floor, and when you go to pick it up, they pounce. It is one of the worst jump scares I've ever received playing this game, or any Souls-like game to date. And once they pounce, they suck you into the umbral and gnaw your head off. Then they leave you to die. Everything I said about the Shrouded Sparrows, I actually meant it towards these guys. I hate everything horror and have literally been traumatized by jump scares before. And if there was one thing I could remove from this game, it would be them and their entire lineage. After finally making it through Fitzroy's Gorge and having a genuinely pleasant conversation with Durston, who is a man in search of his brother, I also ended up calling him a dwarf because he acts like a dwarf from the Tolkien universe. After all of that, you get to meet another boss/normal enemy that will appear from this point forward, named Ruiner. That's the name of the enemy type, and I hate to say it, but the boss form might be easier than the actual normal enemy version.
Bro, please, just anywhere I can rest. Please. I have like almost 10,000 freaking souls on me. Can't even get up to that. This bridge looks cursed. There's gonna be a cutscene on this bridge, dude. Oh gosh. I ain't gonna make it. Yep, there it is. Told you. Where the fetch? Oh my gosh.
While researching, there is not a lot on the wiki or the internet in general about the lore of the world and its enemies, and the Ruiner is no exception to that. The only lore-related thing on the wiki is, quote, Ruiner is an umbral entity, end quote. Not kidding, that is the best I could find, but screw that, I'm just going to start making things up now. This is a game theory episode. From what I've seen and what I've discerned from the enemies later in the game, these guys are kind of just the direct servants of Aedir, them and their kin. They probably reside in the same realm as him, and the ones left in the world currently are trapped there and are part of the reason that people are trying to bring Aedir back. They are more than likely some sort of guard or soldier in Aedir's army. I wouldn't go so far as to say they were honor or an elite guard of some kind, because the next encounter I'm going to talk about would probably take that name. Needless to say, the Ruiner sucked. It only took me 4 tries to beat him, but I had to go through the Gauntlet of Death and Despair every single time I lost. I died more to the Gauntlet of Death and Despair than I did to both the Ruiner and Pieta 2.0 combined. Moving on. The Ruiner is basically just the bridge troll from the Three Billy Goats Gruff, if you remember that old story, because after you defeat him, you finally get to go to the other side of the Gauntlet of Death and Despair, which eventually leads to Lower Calrath. But before you get the pleasure to go to Calrath, you have a surprise encounter with the Light Reaper. This is the guy who I would absolutely call Aedir's elite or honor guard. He literally rides into battle upon some sort of like 2-headed fire-breathing drake in search of the lamp bearers, or your character. After doing research for this guy, I found out actually that you're supposed to die to him in your first 2 encounters, and then you finally defeat him the 3rd time. But if you kill him the first time, you'll get a special cutscene. So that's kind of neat. The first time you encounter this guy, he has more health than the other 2 times you encounter him. So that's a neat little fact. Except for the fact that this guy, the first time you meet him, he's the tutorial boss. This guy is the tutorial boss. Needless to say, I feel better now knowing I was set up to fail than when I actually encountered him the first time. That was one of the most unfair tutorial bosses I've ever fought in my life. That said, he's actually one of the coolest enemies in the game, in my opinion, and really kind of puts a physical manifestation to the main antagonist. While not actually Aedir, he is like the evil god Aedir's main minion. The Light Reaper is literally the guy sent to hunt down the lamp bearers, who are Aureus's manifestations of power. The lamp is the power of Aureus, and you are using the lamp and the power of Aureus to defeat Aedir and purify the beacons sealing away Aedir. So if this guy isn't like the elite, I don't know who is. And finally, after all of that, after surviving the Gauntlet of Death and Despair, after going against Aedir's Supreme Minion, you get to enter the next main area of the game, Calrith, specifically Lower Calrith, and you emerge into a city set aflame. Now guys, this is the end of the video. Thank you to everyone who watched this far, and thank you for bearing with me. This is the first time I've ever done something like this, and so it's really difficult. I'm sorry if the audio's kind of crap, and I say or and I pause, and I make weird noises in between words. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for bearing with me. If you did make it this far, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe. Go check out my other YouTube videos if you aren't convinced just yet. They're pretty good, in my opinion, and maybe you'll subscribe off of one of those. That would help me a ton. If you do want to see more like this, please let me know. Let me know by liking, let me know in the comments, let me know what I can improve on. Let me know what you think would help make these style of videos better. Because genuinely, I had so much fun recording this video that I changed up the idea of it 3 separate times, and this is the final project of all of my imagination for what this video could be. So again, thank you for watching this far. It means a lot, and I will see y'all next time. Goodbye.
We can dual wield frickin' swords. That's kind of dope, actually. For now, though, I didn't realize that I should have realized that was. Oh my gosh! Well, I found one of you.